Hey everybody, this is Billy Greer from the band Kansas, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any place you find podcasts. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, soon to be coming back to downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Billy Greer of Kansas in the 7th key.
Yes. What a fantastic interview. He's got some, Kansas, actually, not he. Yeah. Kansas has some new material out. What is that, Jeff?
Their newest album in 2020 came out. It was The Absence of Presence. It's killer. I hope, check it out.
Yeah, new studio album, and they also have a new live album out, Point of No Return and Beyond. So, a heritage act, like we had spoke about before, still making new killer music, not looking to retire.
Not anywhere close to being done, which
is
great for the fans.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and the music is just as vibrant as anything else they've ever done, and what a genuine guy.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he was fun.
So, hey, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to this interview.
Good night.
Good night. All right, Bill, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Bill, this is great to talk to you tonight.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Fantastic. Well, it is an honor to have you on the Nothing Shocking podcast. We're just so excited to have you and have this conversation with you tonight.
Well, it's great to be here. I mean, gosh, we've been through such a hard time. Well, we're living such a hard time still.
Yeah.
But things seem to have turned a corner and getting a little better, maybe.
So let's hope so.
Can be hopeful.
Yeah. Well, guess that kind of leads into the first question. You know, this past year's COVID-19 restrictions have hit the music industry hard. How have you and your bandmates stayed productive during this lockdown?
Well, it started for us on the 11th of March of last year. You know, just a year ago, just a few days ago, I was on an airplane. My normal MO is to get on a plane here in Savannah, Georgia, where I live, and fly up to Atlanta. Most of the guys and crew live in Atlanta. We're kind of scattered out all over the country, but most of the guys live in Atlanta. We're home based out of there and have been for probably almost 40 years now. And I was on a plane, and we were heading to Portland, Oregon for a West Coast run, about a 2-week run out there. And we landed in Atlanta, and my phone lit up as soon as I turned it back on, you know, and it's like, go home. Everything's canceled. And it's like, wow. Oh, here we go. So, you know, we came home and we were able, thank God, that Kansas is set up properly as a corporation, you know, that withholds taxes from everybody's, you know, the money that we make. And so we've been able to, you know, draw unemployment and get PPP loan and stuff like that, you know, to you know, tie everybody over and make sure that we could survive the times and that's the way it's been. I mean, we haven't played in I think our last gig was in February of last year, around the middle of February. And, so we're gearing up again. There's a little light at the end of the tunnel. We have 3 gigs in May that we can talk about at some point in this, tonight. But so we do see a light, and that's it. Otherwise, everybody's been trying to occupy their time and write and record or work on stuff. We have a live album that's been recorded over the course of the last 3 legs of the Point of No Return live tour, which we finally, consolidated into a live album. So, Richard and Phil and our sound engineer, Chad Singer, we've been mixing that, and that's going to be released actually on the 28th of March with, pre-sales going on sale on kansasband.com on the 25th of March. So that's something we've been looking forward to. So we've got a really good, great sounding live album from, I'm not sure how many shows we took those from. We have the capability to record every show that we play with our front of house console, which we do. Nice. And so we've taken what we think are the best performances from those shows and consolidated them into a live album of Point of No Return. Point of No Return, Live and Beyond.
Fantastic.
So kind of like we did the Leftover tour thing as well.
Oh, so cool. Jeff, go ahead.
Your your most recent album, The Absence of Presence.
Absence of Presence.
Yeah, can you
I mean, what a apropos name for the time we lived. And we didn't do this if this wasn't after the fact. We named this a long time ago. This was about people getting all tied up in their devices, and even though you're in a group of people, you're not connected, you're in your phone, and, and you're just not there, Yeah. And that's kind of what it was all about. And, boy, did it ever hit a note after this, COVID vaccine, the COVID virus hit. And, it was, we're so proud of that album. I in particular love, and this is my favorite sounding album as far as the bass sound and some of the parts that I played. I'm really proud of it, and everybody's proud of it. And I just thought it was a great album. Too bad we didn't get to tour properly and promote it properly like we normally would have done.
Yeah. With that being said, releasing an album as you did, July of 2020, during the COVID-19 lockdown, did the band have any reservations releasing a new album during 2020, or were you guys just going to go through with it, full swing, regardless of the lockdown, or was there any idea of maybe waiting until 2021 when you could see the light at the end of the tunnel?
I don't think so. I think the record company was up for it. I mean, everybody, was searching for any kind of release and, escape, whatever. So I think it was actually a better, business stance to release it during the COVID-19 lockdown, because it just gave something people to latch onto, here's something new that's coming out. Everything else, came to a screeching halt. So we had this in the can and ready to be released. And then, and just before the pandemic struck, so it was already mixed and ready to be released. And we just, chose the record company chose the date, and that's what we did. And I think that was probably the best thing that could have happened.
Well, fantastic.
Granted, it would have been better to be able to play some songs live and let fans hear us, promote that album live. But we've always got the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jeff, take the next one.
Well, I was just going to ask you about, this was the second album with the new singer, was it Ronnie Platt?
The second live album, yes.
Okay.
Yes. we recorded Absence of Presence. That's the studio version, and then we had the Prelude Implicit. Yeah, that was. My memory evades me here.
Oh no,
but that was the first record we did with Ronnie as the lead singer.
It's a great album, and I guess the question I had was just, sometimes when new singers come in, the hardcore fans might not be happy with the decision, but has it been a good response from Kansas fans?
Well, I think it has. I mean, just like you said, we have some of those people. This past July, I've celebrated my 36th year with the band, and coming up this July will be my 36th year. But and some of the hardcore fans, as Dave Hope will be, is the bass player for Kansas, which is fine. I get that. I mean, he was in on the heyday of the band and the pinnacle of their success and everything. But I've been with the band for almost 36 years, and I'm very proud of that. And I think I've become a part of the band, and hopefully a contributing part of the band. I know the band we had together when everything was shut down was top notch. We hadn't sounded any better in a long time. I guarantee you that. And we were in the third leg of the Point of No Return tour, so the songs were tight and the show was down pat, and it was, we had all our crew was at their, just top notch, lighting and sound and everything. Nice. And it was just such a shame to have to pull the plug on that, because we had 90 shows that we had to cancel. And when we first got that news, go back home, we had a summer coming up. We were going to be doing a Jukebox Heroes tour with Foreigner, nice, headlining in Kansas in the middle, and Europe as the the opening act.
I would love to see that.
And that was like an outdoor amphitheater type of tour, and we had 50 shows of that, which was going to be great because it was going to all of the United States and Canada. And then on in the fall, we had a whole tour of European and Scandinavian dates booked, with Kansas playing the Point of No Return show. So we were carrying that on and on and on. So we've moved some of those shows forward, some of the Point of No Return dates, and we're planning on trying to get those in the future as soon as things, when time allows and the situation allows. So we'll see how that goes. But that one tour with the three bands was going to be, it's going to be fun. I mean, the Point of No Return show is a 2.5 hour headlining show. So we kind of open up for ourselves with an acoustic set, and then we play the Kansas favorites for an hour and a half or so, and then we do the Point of No Return album in its entirety and running order. And it's a great show, and we had all the bells and whistles and backdrops and lighting, and it was just, I think it really ignited a spark under some of our older fans that hadn't seen the band in years and years and came out again for nostalgia or whatever reason, and really enjoyed seeing the band again, because it kind of reminded them of when they saw the band back in the 70s. And it was a really good band.
Oh, fantastic.
And here we are now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we're trying to figure out how to practice online without having to get together. I mean, Zoom's great, but it doesn't work when you're a musician. So we're looking for other protocols. We found one that kind of works. It's got about a 70 millisecond delay between what you play and what you hear back. So we're going to see how that goes. If anybody's got any ideas, I'd be very thankful to hear them. if anything else has any less latency or delay in the sound. We're looking at to even practice for these shows coming up without having to get people flying in from all over the country and rehearse to rehearse online, virtually.
Yeah. Brutal.
Yeah.
I gotta kind of switch gears on you, but Kansas has been a band that has stayed true to their sonic roots. Can you talk more about the writing and recording process of the Absence of Presence album? Did the writing and recording process differ from other albums, or has the machine still stayed the same?
Well, it has. It kind of changed. First of all, for the Prelude Implicit, we had brought Zach Risby in as the producer, and Zach brought in some great song ideas, and we ended up using those. And it's like, God, why don't we ask him to join the band? Because he kind of picked up. He has that whatever Kerry had, that left wing, that left brain thing, Kerry wrote some fantastic songs, some just timeless, masterpieces, in my opinion. And I can say that because I wasn't around when he wrote those and wasn't part of the band when they recorded them and played them. So him and Steve were such a great pair of writers for this band. And then we found Zach, and not only was he a great producer, and he'd been involved in the band for years. He'd worked on other projects, so we knew him, and was a great guitar player, and his band had opened up for us on occasions up in the New York and New Jersey area when we would tour up there. And we brought him in to just produce the album, and we ended up doing a bunch of his songs, and it's like, do you want to be a part of this band? And that's where it started, and he could write these epic, kind of classical rock things that I didn't have the capacity to do. And really, he just added so much. He brought so much to the band as far as with his writing ability. And then with the newest album, The Absence of Presence, we had brought Tom in as a new keyboard player. And Tom is so prolific as a player and as a writer as well. It turned out he wrote the lion's share of the lyrics for the album. Ronnie's a great lyric writer, and he wrote for some of the songs, he wrote the lyrics. And then Tom just fell right into place, given, when we asked him to join, he was interested. He said, he just wanted to be a side man, because that's what he had been before. He had toured with Yes as their keyboard player on their symphonic tour. And we had, when we were looking for a keyboard player, we had gotten a recommendation from our label, from Inside Out, Thomas, that he would be a good choice. So called him up and talked to him. He said, well, I understand you guys are getting ready to do a new album. Can I be a part of that? And Phil told him, said, yeah, we want you to be a member of this band. And boy, did he come in and he just, took charge and really contributed to the writing along with Zach. Zach is a great musical person. He doesn't really write lyrics, and Tom filled in that void. And along with Ronnie, I'm just so proud of this album. I really am. I think it's a great album. And it just harkens back to the days of the old type of Kansas, and we weren't given restrictions like when I first joined the band back in 1985. We were on MCA, and contractually we were told, well, you have to have at least 2 songs on the album that, could be potential commercial releases. Basically, we want at least a couple of things that we think can be hits. And it just kind of puts you in handcuffs. And with the new label, and after leaving MCA and then signing with Inside Out, it's like, whatever you want to write, as long if it's a 10-minute song, that's even better. So we're given that freedom, and it doesn't matter. If it's whatever, you just do what you want to do. We just want a Kansas album, and given that freedom, that's what we kind of came up with.
Nice.
I must interject here, and I have to tell you, of all the new songs off of the Absence of Presence, my favorite song is Jets Overhead. Do you have a favorite song on that album?
Wow, I have about three. Honestly, Throwing Mountains is mine.
That was mine.
I love that frickin' riff, man. That just kicks your ass. It just blows me away. Zach came up with that, and he brought it in, and I thought, oh my God, this is just going to be so much fun to play. And I have 3 or 4 songs that I really, really enjoy and listen to. I'll skip to them when I'm listening to the album. I'll go to it every now and then. Just the Absence of Presence is a great one because it just kind of encapsulated the whole pandemic thing without even knowing it was going to.
Yeah.
And Throwing Mountains and Jets Overhead is another one that I love. And those 3 songs are just 3 of my favorites off that album.
Oh, fantastic.
I like the intro to the instrumental track on the album, the Propulsion one.
Yes. That's something that Tom brought. He brought a couple things, Memories Down the Line is another thing that he wrote both music and lyrics to. So he was just contributed so much to that album. He really did. And live too, he is such a great player. I mean, such an awesome player. It's just so much fun listening to him. And he just kind of, the thing is, in my opinion, that version of Kansas, the players were so good that it just made everybody up their game, I mean, we got Phil and Rich, who've been there since the beginning, and then we got Dave Ragsdale, I think he's got close to 20 years in with the band. I've been there for 36 years. And then we had, Zach and Tom, the newer guys. And it's just such great musicianship that, you didn't want to be the weak link. So it just drove you to try to do better.
Yeah.
And vocally, the band was sounded good. Ronnie was a great addition. I think he did. He replaced Steve. Was able to do those high parts that that had to be sung, that are not easy to sing. And he's able to do them. And he was a great addition when we got him. And as was David Mannion, our keyboard player. David had worked for the band for years as our lighting director, but it's also a great keyboard player because I used him a lot, on my 7th key projects, and he did keys on a lot of those. So he was a great addition at the time. And then he wasn't able to be with the band, so we got Tom. We found Tom, and that was a great addition. And he brought not only his musical talent, but also his writing ability.
Yeah. Are there any of these new tracks on the new live album that's coming out?
No,
okay.
No. We hadn't started. The live album had been recorded long before the album was completed. So, no, we hadn't done any of those live yet. We were planning on doing a couple of them, before everything came to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
We were rehearsing to do them, to work a couple of tracks into the show, to promote the new album. But, it just didn't happen. So, no, there are no live versions of from that album, from the new album.
Yeah.
With social distancing being what it is and at the forefront of everything, but we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. How has the band schematically planned playing live, and to what type of venue, to a certain audience size? How is it all working for?
Well, right now we have our first 3 shows are coming up in May. We finally have 3 shows firm, committed to. And one of them is a show in Atlanta Raceway, which is a drive-in show where you drive your car in. This is going to be strange, I think, for me. I don't know. Maybe just me. But you have to, you drive in, the people that come with you, they have to stay in your group. You have enough space outside your car to set up some lawn chairs or whatever and get outside and enjoy the concert. But you have to socially distance and, that kind of thing. So it's going to be strange. We have 2 other shows, one at SeaWorld in Orlando.
Nice.
And of course that's an outdoor type of show. So, I just learned that we have to have a negative COVID test 72 hours before the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though I've been vaccinated with both vaccines, so at this point I should be fully immune as much as I can be.
Let's hope so.
And then we're playing a show in Clearwater, Florida at Ruth Eckerd Hall, and that's one of our favorite little places to play. We played there a couple of times over the last few years, but it's a half house, a socially distanced show. Mm. So we have things that we're slowly working into. So hopefully, as the vaccines progress and all these places can start opening up safely, and we'll get back into the swing of things. That's the hope.
Yeah.
But we just have to see.
Oh, fantastic! Well, I do want to change gears on you. I want to change gears on you, and it wouldn't behoove us to discuss the Kansas Power album. It was your first album working with as a member of the band. Stylistically, it was different, a different direction for the band. Can you talk more about joining Kansas and the writing and recording process of the Power album?
Yes, I can. Like you said, it was my first, outing with Kansas, my first album. I joined in 1985 is when they asked me to join the band. I had played with Steve in the streets for about 3 years, and we did a couple albums on Atlantic Records. And so, I was used to playing with Steve, and it was so intimidating when I first joined that band to play with, one of my favorite vocalists in the world, one of the greatest rock and roll voices of all time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I learned a lot from Steve, and I will be eternally grateful for him bringing me into that band, and eventually, kind of following him, riding his coattails back into Kansas when he came back. Because after we broke up with the streets, there was about a year and a half there where I was kind of alone in darkness.
Yeah.
Well, except the bright point was that I did a stint with a southern rock band called the Outlaws. I played bass for the Outlaws for a year, so that was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So I learned a lot, and that was, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. But then, Phil called me up and said, "Hey, we're putting Kansas back together. Steve's coming back, and Steve Morris is going to be the new guitar player, and I, if you want to join." And that took about a millisecond to make that decision. and so I came back, and that was kind of intimidating, playing with Steve Morris as guitar player.
Right,
but he made he made things easier. He just wasn't that dominating, intimidating figure. He made you feel comfortable. He appreciated your strengths and complimented you on them. And he just really made it a lot easier. So that was a lot of fun playing with him, and I learned a lot from him. And, then things changed. We get dropped from the record label, and the whole music scene changes, grunge happens, and Nirvana comes out, and Kansas all of a sudden is, when you're jobless again. Promoter said, well, we can't book you anymore, and our manager, Bud Carr, I'm sorry, I'm going to leave. I'm going to work for Oliver Stone as his musical director on all his films.
Oh, wow.
So Phil just took over the management, and we just kept chugging away, man. We had this German promoter that called and said, I'd like to get as many original members as I can to come over for a couple of weeks here in Germany. And we did that. Dave and I both went on that tour. I mean, they wanted, he was willing to do it, and I was still kind of a member, and they didn't want to leave me out, so we both went over and did the tour. Carrie did as well. The only original member that didn't go was Robbie, and I can't tell you why that was the case, but that was the case. And so we went and did that 2-week stint in Germany, and we came back to the States, and we toured for about a month, doing a few shows in places like Iowa and Kansas City and Atlanta and stuff like that. And Dave at the time had taken time off because he was an Anglican priest at his church down in Destin, Florida. So he, after about a month back home, he said, I've had enough, and he decided to go back. I stayed on. Carrie stayed on for about another month after that, and decided, well, I've had enough. And so we just added, that's when we added, Greg Robert and Ragsdale, David Ragsdale. And we just kept going. And there was some tough, lean years. Yeah. We call them the bus days, the dark ages, when we were going out and playing really shady kind of venues, clubs and stuff, 2 or 3 days a week to get to the weekend when we had some, good paying gigs. But we had to stay out for, weeks at a time, just, to make the numbers work for everybody and pay everybody and keep the bus going. And slowly but surely we just worked our way back, and that's what's so sad to me now is that we had kind of worked our way back to where the band was just hot, and everybody, the music was just smoking, the sound was smoking, the production. We had a great tour going on, and then it just But we're blessed. At least we're here. God, how many years later? Kansas has been around for 46 years now, something like that. 45, 46, 1973. So you do the math. 47 years.
Close enough.
I think that's when they first started recording the first album. Was in 73, maybe released it in 74. And, what a blessing to make a 47-year career doing something that you just really love to do,
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, yeah, I'll never forget. I discovered the Seventh Key. I don't remember which band I was searching for. I was searching for something, and I came across the video for it's like a live in the studio video of "I Will Survive."
I Will Survive. Yeah,
and I immediately had to text Eric because I knew he was a Kansas fan. And I'm like, you got to listen to this band. And of course, I was disappointed because he already knew about it. but man, I enjoyed that "I Will Survive" album.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's Mike Slamer. And Mike was the guitar player in Streets.
Yeah.
Along with me and Steve and Tim Garrett. And, what a talent. And we just we had remained friends for years. And finally, it was a blessing and it was a curse playing with Steve Walsh because, he's so good and I learned so much from him. But at the same time, I'd always been lead singer in bands that I'd played for, and before I met Steve, and I just kind of was living in the shadows, and that was my way of like breaking out and expressing myself and writing songs that came out of me. And Mike was there, to write with me and produce, and what a great producer. Mike, in his early days, he had done 3 albums with Mutt Lange in an English band called City Boy. So Mike had, had kind of gone to school, recording those albums in Mutt, and kind of learned his techniques, and he just such a great guitar player. What a great soloist he is. I mean, I can't think of anybody in this world that can construct and perform a guitar solo like Mike can. And I've heard other people, including the guitar player from Extreme or Excess, I'm sorry, and even Brian May, talking about Mike. Nice. And how his solos are just so well constructed, and just and he's just that kind of guy. He's just produced those albums and brought out the best of them, more than I ever thought that I was capable of doing. And so it's really fun to do it. And he's had some health issues, and he's gotten over those, and we've been working on some stuff. So it's a possibility that we may release one more album with the 7th Key on the Frontiers label.
Nice. That just made our night.
We're hoping. Yeah. He just got his second vaccination not so long ago, so there might be a trip he still lives in California, so there may be a trip to California in my future.
Oh,
Maybe go out and work with him. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Well, Jeff kind of got the story wrong about the 7th Key thing.
Okay.
So I'm going to clarify this, so everybody knows. So I get up early to work out in the morning. I get on my treadmill or my elliptical and I run. Well, I woke up one morning and I got a couple of notifications on my phone. It was from Jeff, and he sent me 2 links. And one link was to I Will Survive video. I had not heard it before. And another one was from a Jakey Lee Red Dragon Cartel. And so I said, well, this song from 7th Key has a video to it, because I hadn't heard it before. And I got on my treadmill, and man, I watched that video, listened to that thing 3 times in my 3-mile journey. It was fantastic. And like you said, what a guitar solo structure. Wow. It blew I instantly sent it to my dad. I was so blown away by it. But that kind of leads into the next question I have for you is, like, can you kind of talk more about the origins of the 7th Key project? How did it all start for you?
I talk about the origins of what now? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about the 7th Key origins? How did it all start? What was the ideology behind it?
Well, I wanted to do a solo album. Like I said, I having lived in Steve's shadow, I wanted to express myself and be able to, present and my writing ability, and and I was offered the opportunity. I was given a recording contract with this Italian label called Frontiers, who basically they've signed up every old band from the 70s, and that have lost their recording contracts. They, from Journey to whoever, to Night Ranger to parts of different bands. And thank God, these 2 guys that were just classic rock freaks, put together this label and put their money where the mouth is, and they gave a new career to a lot of old musicians. Yes. That in Europe it's so much different. I mean, classic rock became like null and void here after Nirvana and the grunge scene and everything. But in Europe, fans are totally different over there. I mean, you're it's not like you're as good as your last hit record. Once they're your fans for life, kind of like country fans are here in the United States. And so there's still a big market for that, especially in Europe and Scandinavia. And so, not a huge market, but still a market. to make it profitable. And there's my killer dog, my toy Yorkie barking at shadows.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was given the opportunity, so I was given an album deal, and he wanted me to work with Mike Slamer, and I wanted to work with Mike Slamer. I mean, Mike's, like I told you, I have the utmost respect for Mike and his talents as both a player, a songwriter, and a producer. And it was just, the best of all, situations to work with Mike. So that's what we did. And we started, the one thing he did do, we had this demo tape that somehow got out into the public domain. And it was some demos that we had recorded for the Power album. And Steve Morse was on, that whole lineup was on those demos. Phil on drums, Rich and Steve Morse and Steve Walsh. And so he had heard these 4 demos that weren't used on the Power album that we had recorded in this 16-track studio in Atlanta with Brendan O'Brien, of all people.
Oh, yeah.
If you know who Brendan O'Brien is.
Yeah.
He engineered them and kind of helped produce them. So it was 4 good songs, I thought, but they didn't make the cut on the album. And he said, I want you to use those. So I had to get, call Phil. Phil, have you got the master tapes? And it was funny. He found those master tapes. He said, I looked all over the house, and I was going through the bathroom one day, and I pulled a towel out of the linen closet, and I saw this box back there, and it was the master tapes that we had recorded those on.
Nice.
And I had to take them. They were so old that I had to take them, and there's a process you have to use old tape like that, because otherwise it'll just fall off once you run it through a machine, it'll just fall off like sand, like if you're sanding. Yeah. So you have to bake these tapes in a convection oven and I found a friend of ours, Ricky Keller, who owned the studio that we actually recorded them in. He knew how to do that. So he baked them for so long, and you get like maybe 2 passes of the tapes before the oxide just falls off the tape and record them into a digital domain. And that's what we did. So we were able to use 4 of those songs on the album. And, there was a couple of songs, one song that Steve Morse and I had written, another song that Steve Walsh had written and sang, but I ended up re-singing the vocal, and, we used those 4 songs. So I was able to get that configuration of Kansas on that first 7th key record, and it really sparked a lot of interest. So
yeah,
got a lot of fans from that. And then after that, it was just me and Mike and other people that we brought into the project. And so I think we recorded some good albums, and we ended up actually even doing a live DVD, which is on YouTube. You can find cuts of it. So we've had some success with that, and just been a lot of fun. Especially, I just love Mike. He's one of my favorite people in the whole world, and we're like brothers. And we have such a great time when we hang out, when we're writing and recording. We have fun, and it's just it's just great. So good times, and I'm looking forward to doing it again in the near future as soon as possible.
Yeah, I know. I know. As far as you've been in Kansas for so long that you know the insides and outs of the writing process, the recording process of when you're in the studio with the rest of the band. But when you're doing your 7th key stuff, how does it differ, and how is it similar when you're writing and recording a new album?
I don't feel so constrained when I'm writing for 7th key, and the writing process for 7th key is basically, and it's not chiseled in stone, but for the most part, Mike will come up with these great verse, chorus, musical ideas, and he'll send them to me, and then I'll come up with a melody and some, rough lyrics. And then I'll take it back to him, and then we'll work on them together, and then we'll come up with a middle part or a chorus or a whatever, and we do what needs to be done. With Kansas, it's like I just don't write. Some of my subject matter isn't conducive to what Kansas is normally. It's more of a deeper subject matter kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
The lyrics really are important in those things, in those songs, in the Kansas songs, and I get that, but that's not what always comes out of me when I'm trying to write a song.
Right.
Kansas is not known for writing about love and that and relationship type things for the most part. I mean, there have been a couple, but for the most part, they're deeper and have more meaning, and that's not always what comes out of me. So, I had one song on the first album, on Power album that I did, called Three Pretenders, which I was the main writer on, but Steve, changed the whole dynamic of the song and the whole gist of the song, because before it was more of a love song when the lyrics I presented, and after he redid it, it became more of a very dark song about somebody with multiple personalities. So it's that kind of dynamic,
Yeah.
Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's awesome, because I had that down to ask you about, because when I was listening to the Power album today, I actually had put a star next to Three Pretenders, and then later went and looked at the writing credits and saw that you were on the writing credits of that, and I was like, well, how cool is that? So I wanted to ask you about that. That's cool. So thank you for that story. I was just going to ask... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that was the first idea that I had ever presented to the band, and they decided to use it, which was a great confidence booster for me. And then Steve and I had gotten together, and we had written Every Time It Rains, which was on the first Seventh Key record. That was one of the demos that we had done, that Brendan had produced, basically, and engineered and produced. And we ended up using that on the first Seventh Key. And I thought it was a great song, but again, it was just like a real Beatlesy sounding song, but it wasn't nothing real deep. The lyrics weren't that deep, but, and it was more of a love type song, a boy-girl relationship song. And, that's just the more obscure, the more hidden the message, the more whatever, you're able to interpret something differently, than somebody else might interpret. That's what Kansas lyrics to me is all about. I mean, the lyrics that Carrie wrote, some of the stuff is just incredible. I mean, it just stands up even today, and this many years later, the subject matter that he deals with, and people are able to relate to it even now, as they did, 40 years ago. And it's just, it's kind of a universal kind of thing that, people searching for, what's real, what am I looking for in this life, that kind of thing. And it's not an easy thing to do, and writing lyrics is not easy for me, because you're kind of putting yourself out there. I mean, you're kind of laying it, putting it out on a chopping block there for the world to either take a whack or say, that's kind of cool. So it's not easy. I did write a couple of the lyrics for the Prelude Implicit, and then Tom came in and was just so prolific with the latest album, The Absence of Presence, and I just stood back and let him go, and I'm happy for him. I'm really happy for him. He's such a great guy and such a great player. And so talented.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about how great of a guitar player Mike Slammer is, but can we talk about the drummer, Chet Wind?
Chet Wind. Yeah, let's talk about Chet. Do you really want to talk about Chet? Really?
Well, I just think
are you sure about that?
Let's do it.
Well, he's loosely based on the drumming of Tim Garrett. Tim was the drummer in Streets, and it's basically. God, I'm breaking some rules here.
That's okay. You don't have to. We can
Chet is Mike's middle name. Chetwin is Mike's middle name. So Mike is the drummer in Streets.
Yeah. I just thought it was cool because
that's the first time I've said this in the public arena, so I just want you to know that. And I'm sure other people have figured that out, but Mike is, and if you just put that record on and listen to it, you can't tell it's not a drummer unless you're a really, really great musician. You don't know, because he takes absolutely months to do those drum tracks. And we're given such a small budget that we couldn't afford to go into a real studio and record and have a drummer and take 2 or 3 days to get drum sounds, and that would you're given $24,000 to do a record. You can't afford to go hire a studio, hire a drummer, pay the time, and come out with anything that sounds a crap.
Yeah.
So Mike had a great studio at home in his garage, and that's where we recorded those albums. I've got the same thing at home. I've got my own studio here. Some of the stuff was recorded in my studio. Even on the last Kansas record, all the bass parts were recorded right in my little studio, right here.
Nice.
Because, the last album before that, The Prelude Implicit, I did it in our studio up in, that we record at in, Jonesboro, Georgia, just south of Atlanta, called Reel to Reel. That's where we recorded those 2 albums. And it was just, at the time I was going, I had some really bad back problems. It was really tough. And you got 6 people hanging out around you, watching you play, and it's just the pressure. I don't need that. Yeah. So for the new album, I said I'll record my parts at home. If you want me to change anything, I'll change it. Otherwise, I've got all the equipment I need to make it sound great. That you've got the same equipment you've got in the studio. I've got it in my studio. Here at home. So all the bass work was done right here in my house.
Oh, nice. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. I have one more question to ask you, and then we're going to let you go because we've talked your ear off tonight.
Sure, man.
So here it is. So Kansas did the tour, what about? I'm guessing maybe 10, 12 years ago?
No, we did what now?
You guys did you guys did a tour where you were you had a college symphonies backing you, where you were going from maybe college town to college town and having different university symphonies backing the band for
the symphony tour. Yes.
Yeah. So I got to see you guys on that tour at Western Illinois University campus. I think it was about 10, 12 years ago, I think it was. I took my dad. I surprised him with tickets. We drove.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah. My memory escapes me at times. So we'll call it 12 years ago.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. So with that being with that being said, the night that we saw you, it was Christmassy time of the season. It was snowing out, and the band got on stage. And I believe Phil Earhart hit a cymbal, and the cymbal went flying off of the stand and went flying somewhere, flailing away somewhere. And the band had to stop, right? Everything had to stop right there. And you kind of tried to lead the audience in an a cappella of The Weather Outside is Frightful. Do you remember that night?
Now, what town was this in?
This was in Macomb, Illinois, at Western Illinois University campus.
And Phil's cymbal fell over?
Yeah, it fell off. It flew off.
And then what happened?
So as everything had to come to a crashing halt right at the beginning of the show,
That happened a couple of times, especially during our recording our live DVD with the symphony, the 35th anniversary thing that we did in Kansas.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Well,
something happened in the truck, and we had to just stop the show and take it up from so during Song for America or something. I don't know, a glitch happened, and Jeff Klicksman came in. He was producing it and came and said, "Stop it! You guys need to stop and take it from." So things happen, stuff happens, and it's and that's what adds the little edge to it that keeps you on your heels and keeps you.
Well, what was so cool about that when that happened, when everything came to a crashing halt. You got on the microphone and said, "Well, hey, let's sing. The weather outside is frightful."
Well, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
You can sit there and be uncomfortable with each other, or you can, make it a little humorous and sing a Christmas carol or something. I don't know.
Well, regardless, that show was fantastic. It was extra special. I got to take my dad to the show. We talked about it the whole car ride home. Western Illinois University is my alma mater, so it was great to drive down there to see you guys perform. And we kind of hung around after the show, and some of the students, the symphony members, were coming off the stage, and they're young, 20-ish years old or whatever else, and they're saying, "Oh, that was awesome." And
that was kind of the purpose of that tour, was to, we had good backing and we had good support from D'Addario, and they were co-sponsoring the tour and help with some of the financing and stuff, and it was just like to give these kids a chance, to experience what it's like, to have that level of success, or be a part of that level of success, and to encourage them and to help, to boost the support for them, because music is so important. I mean, what would we be without music during times like these?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how much do you depend on the music that you listen to, and how important is that in your life? And even live concerts. I mean, how starved are you to go hear a show and see a band play live right now? And
exactly.
it's just so important for me and for everybody. And I can't wait till we get some sense of normality and get back to being able to play and doing what we do.
Oh, fantastic. Well, before we let you go for the evening, is there anything that we didn't cover or promote or plug for you that you'd like to kind of throw in at the end here?
Just we have the new live album coming out the 28th of March, or of May. Is it March or May? Hang on a second.
I believe it's May.
It's soon.
I believe it's May 28th. As I looked on
May 28th. Yeah, May 28th, and start taking pre-orders.
That's okay. I know that I looked on your on the promotional listing on it. It said, I think within the next week or the next couple days or something like that, it's ready to go for a pre-order.
Pre-orders start March 26th on kansasband.com. And this is a really good album. It really is. And if you had tickets to come see this show, and we've had to, postpone it or whatever, this is what you can expect. And this is we were at our pinnacle as far as performing live with this. I mean, everybody was top notch, and the band was so freaking tight. Nice. I mean, just as tight as it's ever been. And the musicianship was just, at its peak for me since I play in the band. So, I encourage you, if you are a Kansas fan, to buy this album or listen to it or steal it if you have to, whatever you need to do. Just want you to hear it. If you get a chance to come see it after things, get back to normal, please do. We're going to be here, till they run us out of town on a rail, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I tell you what, when you come back around our area, we're going to be there, so we won't miss it. Promise. That's a promise.
All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for helping me to talk about everything that's on my plate and in my mind, and I appreciate your support. And to everybody out there who might be listening, to all our fans, we love you guys and can't wait to start playing again.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, before we let you go, we're going to have this episode ready and available probably about between 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks. So as soon as it's ready to go, I will email you the link immediately.
Cool.
All right, man.
Cool, man. Sounds great. Thank you both so much.
Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying our podcast, please tell a friend and help spread the word about the Nothing Shocking podcast. Also, please support our partner, the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.
as their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug